Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Deviation Nation YouTube channel, and welcome back to another week of the KD Kevin Drake Show. I'm your host, Kev, Dev, anything you want to call me. But we are going to jump right into it, talking about divisional round playoffs in the NFL. We had Giants, Eagles. We also had Cowboys, 49ers. We had Bengals, Bills, and Chiefs, Jaguars. Now, to start off, we're going to go straight into the Eagles and Giants game. My prediction was correct. The Eagles were going to win, but they did it in a way that I did not expect. And the reason I say that is because I thought, and like I stated, I thought the Giants would hold their own going into the half, and then the Eagles would come back after the half and take them down. Boy, was I wrong. The Eagles came out there and absolutely demolished the Giants. That was a thrashing. That one was not one that I expected to happen. I thought the Giants would have put up a bigger fight because it was a divisional game, because they are in the same division, but it did not happen. And it was, whew. It's probably one of my, I thought the score was going to be completely different than what it was, but in reality, Eagles went in there and said, we're going to prove to you that we are going to make it to the Super Bowl this year. So, God, that was a wild game. But Eagles win over the Giants and send them home packing. But don't count out the Giants. 1 year in, Daniel Jones looks good, Saquon looks good, and everything like that. They just need to bolster that receiving core, get that offensive line a little bit of help, solidify that defense, and they'll be back in the playoffs next year, in my opinion. Now to the other NFC game. Cowboys 49ers, and this is where I'm going to get some heat because I'm going to talk badly about them Cowboys, but there's good reason behind it. Dak threw 2 interceptions, damn near a third one that would have been a pick six if Dre Greenlaw would have held on to that ball. There was poor decision making. His mechanics got sloppy. He tried too much too many times, and at the end of the day, he did not win. Now, everyone's going to be like, oh, but Tony Pollard went down. That shouldn't matter. If your run game is solidified only having those 2 running backs, then you don't have a running attack. Because if you can't simply sit there and be like, okay, we're just going to have to feed Zeke, we're going to have to bring in the backup, the third string running back we have, and develop that run game like that, then you were never going to win that game when Tony Pollard went down. At that point, when Tony Pollard went down with that injury, that game was over. And it essentially was. It didn't help that the first touchdown to Dalton Schultz, the PAT, was blocked. And everyone was like, Brett Maher is not getting another chance. And he really didn't. They went for it on 4th down more times than not. The 49ers defense was as showcased. The offense, on the other hand, it was a little stagnant. Christian McCaffrey with the only tutty, and Brock Purdy didn't really make that many mistakes. The interceptions that could have been were more so the receivers not bringing the ball in and going through their hands. He was putting it on point. Now, did he have a couple of throws where you were just like, ugh? Of course. He had some rookie mistakes. He really did. And that's showing because he doesn't have that playoff experience. A lot of these players don't have playoff experience, especially Christian McCaffrey, because Christian McCaffrey's been with the Panthers. So you got to think about it. Brock Purdy has now had 2 playoff games underneath his belt. A divisional win against the Cowboys in a really good team, and then a wild card playoff win against the Seahawks, which was a really good team, and there was a reason they made the playoffs, even if it was for the final spot. Those 2 defenses showed Brock Purdy his weaknesses. And as smart as he is and how everyone calls him like the guy now and that he can really adapt to his situation, if he goes into this next week against the Eagles and puts on a show, and there's no question I can see them taking it all the way and winning the Super Bowl. But we'll get into that when we talk about championship weekend. But the 49ers went in there, only scored 1 touchdown, like the Cowboys did, but Brock Purdy didn't give the ball up. The 49ers didn't give the ball up in general, while the Cowboys did. They made more mistakes, and they were more prone to mistakes than the 49ers. So the 49ers inevitably won that game, like I predicted. Now, over on the AFC, Cincinnati-Buffalo. It's a snow game. And the Cincinnati Bengals walked in there and slapped the shit out of the Buffalo Bills. When I say they slapped the shit out of the Buffalo Bills, they literally walked into their home field and said, "We're going to show you what would have happened if that game didn't get canceled." Damar Hamlin was there. Like, he was rooting his guys. And he even stated after the game, "We'll be back. Don't worry. Don't worry. We'll be back." Damar Hamlin is going to have this team ready next year. And I can't wait to see it. Because honestly, I think everyone knows what needs to happen. They need a better run game. They need another receiver beside Stephon Diggs. They need a pass rush. They cannot rely on Von Miller. They need interior and outside pass rush. And maybe a corner. But in reality, the Bills will be a Super Bowl team next year. It's whether or not they can get the pieces together and not rely on Josh Allen to run it so much. The Bengals walked in there with a bad offensive line and smacked the Bills around. And it is so hard to watch because the Cincinnati Bengals are so good. They really are. But to watch the Bills falter like that was wild to watch. Cincinnati won in a snow game. Now, over to the Chiefs-Jaguars game. Trevor Lawrence made one mistake, and it was at the end of the game, threw an interception, and it was on a drive that could have tied it and sent us to overtime. Patrick Mahomes got injured. That changed the tone of the game, where a lot of people were just like, let's change our money to Jacksonville. And the reason I say that, and there's a reason why my pick for the championship round is going to be what it is because Tyreek Hill, losing a player like him, it caused you to go out and Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney. 4 receivers. You traded for one, you drafted one, and you got 2 out of free agency. It says a lot when you have to get 4 receivers after you lose Tyreek Hill. 4. And you know who the main target against Jacksonville was? Travis Kelce, the tight end. That says a lot about your team. Patrick Mahomes is running around left, right, and sideways. And he gets hurt. And now he can't run left, right, and sideways. And it changed the tonality of the game. Did they win? Yes, they won. But there is a big hole in that team now if he is not 100% mobile come time to play the Bengals. If he is not 100% mobile, that game is going to look a lot different than what most people expect it to be. But the Chiefs pulled out the victory against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Jacksonville Jaguars can be back here next year. They really can. They're getting Calvin Ridley for one. But if they can get another receiver, whether in free agency or the draft, they're going to have 3 receivers that are going to carry that team. Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, and whoever they get. They need to work on the defense too. Defense was a lot better. Defense showed up more times than not throughout the year. I think they need a number one. I think they need to draft a corner or get one out of free agency and solidify that linebacking core a little bit more. Maybe if Van Der Esch from the Cowboys goes into free agency, you pick him up. And then also work on that offensive line. Travis Etienne is your number 1 back, but yeah, I would get a power back just to take the load off him so he's not doing too much. But I think that team is getting to the point where it's well-rounded. It's not really much of a rebuild team now. I think it's getting well-rounded, and I think they can easily take the AFC South next year. But the Chiefs win. I'm only 10 minutes in. I'm already done with divisional round because we're going to talk about championship weekend. Boys and girls, ladies and gents, starting with the NFC, you have the San Francisco 49ers against the Philadelphia Eagles. And this game is going to be one spectacular showcase. You're going to have the underdog, Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, walking into Lincoln Financial Field with Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey. And they're going to go up against Brandon Graham, Jordan Davis, Josh Sweat, Darius Slay, and a bunch of other players on that defense. And then you're going to have Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, and Dallas Goedert going up against Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Dee Ford, Dre Greenlaw, and a whole bunch of others. You have to understand something. The amount of talent that is going to be on that field on both offenses and on both defenses is going to be something to watch. The reason I say that is because if you watch the game from the 49ers and Cowboys, it was a heavyweight fight, and it really was. This game is going to be even. So, okay, to put it into perspective, the NFC Divisional round with the 49ers and Cowboys was a boxing match. I predict that the 49ers-Eagles game is going to be an MMA octagon match, and it is going to be bloody and brutal. I told a customer at work that my final prediction is the 49ers will win 25-24. A 1-point difference at the end of the game. I believe Brock Purdy can walk in there and win it. But at the same time, that game will be decided with 20 seconds left in the game. 20 seconds. This is going to be the must-see matchup. Cowboys 49ers was one thing. 49ers Eagles is going to be a whole different story. Because Jalen Hurts, one, more mobile and more decisive with his running than Dak Prescott. Bigger arm, and has gotten to the point that his mechanics and his decision-making is better than Dak Prescott. He has a better run game, consistent with Miles Sanders, but then also has a more consistent wide receiver core with Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, and Dallas Goedert. Don't get me wrong, Dalton Schultz and C.D. Lamb and Michael Gallup are good. Michael Gallup is inconsistent, isn't getting open as much as he used to. Dalton Schultz only gets open in the red zone, and C.D. Lamb has a hard time running his routes and getting open in space. While A.J. Brown will sit there and have a man all over him, and he'll go up and catch that thing. Devontae Smith is so slippery that he gets out of coverage, and it's just like, oh, fuck, he's wide open. And Dallas Goedert is the biggest man in the room, and he's going to look at you, and he's put his face in your hand, he's going to put his hand in your face and drop it to the ground. This is going to be Conor McGregor versus Cowboy, and it's going to be a fight. And I hope y'all are prepared. 49ers win this 25-24. And now, moving over to the AFC Championship game, which is going to be a completely different game. Burrow is 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Bengals fans are calling Arrowhead Burrowhead. This game is going to be offense, offense, offense. The reason I say that is because both defenses, as good as the Bengals defense is, they still don't have Eli Apple or Chidobe Awuzie. And the Chiefs defense is a little lackluster from what they had in previous years. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are going to have their way, but also Juju, Travis, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling are going to have their way as well. This game is going to be must-see television as well. I can't wait for it. And I have the Bengals winning this game, and I think the final score will be 37-33. That is my prediction. I believe that is going to be a 49ers-Bengals Super Bowl. But those are my championship predictions. I am 9-1 right now. I am okay with being 9-3, 10-2, or 11-1. And we will see what happens. The NFL season is coming to a close, and the matchups that are taking place right now are must-see television that no one expected to happen, even though we had similarities happen. The Bengals-Chiefs is a repeat of last year's championship game. This is Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce's revenge game, but this is also Burrow being like, I'm getting back to the Super Bowl, and I'm winning it this time. Because when the final play of the Super Bowl is a sack, but Jamar Chase had a leg on Jalen Ramsey, if that offensive line holds up, that game is completely different, and Joe Burrow got himself a ring. But it didn't happen that way. So now you have a game where both teams are vying for a Super Bowl title. And in all reality, if they weren't in the same conference, this would be a matchup everyone would want to see in the Super Bowl. But it is a Bengals 49ers Super Bowl. It really is. Now, with all that said, it is quite honestly some of the craziest things you can see. Jalen Hurts. No one thought he was going to be able to get better. No one thought that coming out of Oklahoma he was going to be a starter in the NFL. He has defied all odds, and he was an MVP candidate this year. Brock Purdy, consistent at Iowa State. Gets drafted Mr. Irrelevant. Third string backup. Trey Lance goes down in week 2. Jimmy Garoppolo goes down week 8. Or week 9. Brock Purdy walks in there and starts winning. Beats Tom Brady. Joe Burrow. Backup at Ohio State. Told he's never going to start. Transfers to LSU. Wins title. Becomes a Heisman Trophy winner. Gets drafted first overall by the Bengals. Goes down his first year ACL tear. Second year comes in with his boy Jamar. Takes his team to a Super Bowl. Defying all odds. And is almost back to the promised land again. The poster boy right now for the NFL, Patrick Mahomes. Air raid offense, head coach Cliff Kingsbury coming out of Texas Tech. Needs a little refinement. Comes into Andy Reid, has Tyreek Hill, has Travis Kelce, and a whole slew of other weapons. And he sits out his first year behind Alex Smith, comes in, wins Super Bowls, wins AFC championships, and keeps this team consistent as the number 1 team in the league. You couldn't ask for better matchups. You couldn't ask for such compelling storytelling, in my opinion. I rushed through divisional and championship round because this was going to be a shorter episode. But I want y'all to think about this. I want y'all to understand something. We are going to either get Chiefs, 49ers, Chiefs, Eagles, Bengals, 49ers, Bengals, Eagles. Those 4 matchups, either way, are going to rock the world. You couldn't ask for 4 better teams to be in this position. If the Cowboys were taking on the Eagles, it would be crazy and lights out as well, because the Cowboys haven't been to the promised land or even an NFC NFC championship since the 90s. Almost 30 years. Almost. It's 27 years this year. Going to be 28 next year. I want y'all to watch this weekend. I want y'all to watch these quarterbacks. I want you to watch these players. I want y'all to know. Nick Sirianni came in after Doug Peterson got fired, after he took that team to a Super Bowl win with a backup quarterback who beat Tom Brady. And now you had Carson Wentz, who was injured that year, gets traded to the Colts and then gets traded to the Commanders. And now you have Jalen Hurts. You got a magnificent trade from the Titans with A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith, who everyone said was a small-sized receiver that wouldn't make it and would get hurt, and has balled out left, right, and sideways. To Joe Burrow, coming off an ACL injury that could have took his career down, drafts a wide receiver instead of an offensive lineman. In the preseason, Jamar Chase has drop problems and doesn't know if he can catch the ball. In his first week, he catches tutties. In his first year, he proves that he is on a different level. Brock Purdy is consistent at Iowa State. Has a shootout with Jalen Hurts at Oklahoma. Undersized. Not big of an arm. Little bit mobile. Gets drafted Mr. Irrelevant. And is now undefeated in the NFL, including the playoffs. Behind a team that traded up to draft Trey Lance, and Trey Lance has not performed. To Patrick Mahomes being mechanically inclined because he's in an air raid offense, doesn't know if he's going to translate to the NFL, and sits behind Alex Smith and learns from one of the best career quarterbacks who damn near took the 49ers to a Super Bowl with Jim Harbaugh. This is what the NFL is about. This is what football is. Stories and watching players overcome and beat the odds. That's going to do it for this episode of the Katie Kevin Drake Show. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And let me know what you think. Am I right in my predictions? Do you think I'm wrong? Let me know. But I'll catch y'all next time. Peace out, guys.